This video is to introduce us to the unit on using Adobe Lightroom Classic as part of your post-production workflow with editing your photographs on your laptop or computer. Today I'm going to really explore just the basics of the interface of Lightroom, but before I get into that, I want to really examine what Lightroom is. What is this program about and how it differs from Photoshop? Photoshop was originally created uh, with the idea that you could do everything in it. So you could edit your photos, you could create layers, you could manipulate, you could add text. It was basically a hub for everything digital. Photographers have been using this for years, but the demand of needing something with an interface that not only allows us to organize photos and manipulate photos, but to export and share those images as well was needed in the early 2000s. So this is where we are today. Lightroom has become a major workflow manager for photographers around the world, and it has some great features that I will get into today. Photoshop is still a great resource and program to use, and thankfully Adobe allows their products to speak to one another so we can move back and forth with images between Lightroom and Photoshop without an issue. So it's very easy to move between one or the other. Photoshop allows for much more developed images. So again, using typography within the work, layering your images, using masks, really changing colors out of specific areas where Lightroom doesn't really allow you to do that. However, it does allow you to do basic adjustments on your white balance, your exposure, using your blacks and whites and changing those things out. But it also allows for more in-depth things such as lightening teeth, softening skin, brightening specific areas within the photo, adjusting and cropping your image. So it does give us some really great features that you could do in Photoshop. So if you're looking to do something more in depth, great, you can move back into Photoshop and bring it right back into Lightroom. But Lightroom is really your hub. It's where you're going to start storing your images, manipulating, categorizing, grouping your images. Here's one thing you need to understand about Lightroom. Lightroom is not where you store your images, but rather how you manipulate the data within the images. So wherever your images are stored, whether it be an external hard drive or on your desktop, just be mindful of where those images live in order for you to have success with using Lightroom. So if you're making changes or reorganizing your images, just remember that you're going to have to go back and relocate those files so that those images can speak with the changes that you have made. Think of Lightroom as a place where a file folder. So when you're thinking about Lightroom and creating a catalog, the catalog within Lightroom allows you to create kind of a place for a project, or maybe if you're doing something with a client, so such as a wedding photos or things like that, you can create a catalog specific to an event or a time or a project so that it makes it easier for you to reference those images without getting all bogged down in other things. Now, there's nothing wrong with you using all your images in one area. It's just going to mean that you have a lot more pictures within that catalog, and it's going to make these next things that I share with you even more valuable for you. So, how do you create a catalog? Well, first, you will open Lightroom on your desktop. You will create a new catalog. You can name it for this project alone. And for this unit, I have decided to create a demo catalog for you, which is here. And I've already added a few images from my desktop so that I can show you how these features work within Lightroom. Each one of these categories here are kind of grouped together in its own panel. If you see here and then see down here, and I'll go into what each one is. Now, Lightroom has modules: library, develop, map, and so on. We are really going to focus for this specific unit of really understanding the basics of Lightroom in library and develop. Library and develop are probably the easiest things for you to work with. And the other things, if you want to make a book, great. A slideshow of your images, that's great too. If you're wanting to share something with people, it's a great place for you to do those things. But for the purpose of this unit, we're sticking with these two modules. Your left-hand panel is more of like storage of where your things are, where they live, how to navigate through those images, how you import and export. Again, you can do that up here in File. You can create or import and export those things, but it's easier just to have these buttons to do it. It's much faster. Down at the bottom, you have a film strip, which is very similar to 35 millimeter days of really looking at your individual images, being able to move back and forth. And then if you can double click on them and it will enlarge your photo into the loop view or into the grid view. The grid view is great. You get a full collection of your images. You can look and see what those are. You can get to that by using shorthand G. If you're looking for the loop view, the more enlarged image, and you can toggle back and forth with your arrows of your images within whatever your catalog is or selected preview. You can do the E shorthand for loop. The other option is for you to use X and Y, so your compare view, which is shorthand C. And this feature is actually a really cool one in Develop where you can compare your before and after images and see different areas. But for this feature in library mode is for your ability to view your images. You can compare certain images with the X and Y feature. So I'm going to come on back here. Now this panel over here is going to be kind of your information about individual images. You have your histogram over at the top here, and then you have these other drop-down menus that will really allow you to do a quick develop, which we're really not going to get into. You can do keywording, you can do keyword listing, metadata, and you can add comments as well. So we're going to get into this a little bit more, but one of the things that I want to note real quickly is that you can view under your histogram, so your colors and your exposure, you can see what your ISO is, your focal length, your f-stop, aperture and shutter speed, all at the top here. So if you're looking for a quick reference of your images, that is a great place to start. You can also locate that information down at your metadata. All right, let's go back over to this panel, but before I do that, once you get into develop mode, you're going to want to be able to know these handy features. At each area of your screen, there are these little triangles. If you hover over those triangles again, they'll pop back up if you close them. What this feature does is it allows you to shrink down the kind of clutter on the sides of your panels, and the panels can disappear and you can see your images better. So I will click on one of my views and now I have a bigger image and I can see it in more clearly. Again, you can toggle through again. I'm going to teach you a few things that might come in handy for you as you begin to sort and organize your images, picking and selecting or rejecting images and whatnot. All right, let's start in the first panel. What is this panel? Well, Navigator is a really great feature that allows you to kind of zoom in on a specific area of the photo, moving this little feature around, being able to explore the image more clearly. You can go 2:1 as well, so it zooms really far in, or you can fit it to your screen. So that Navigator is great, especially in the develop mode when you're looking for a specific area and doing a mask, where this feature just kind of lets you move around the image without having to do zooming a little bit more ease. Now, a catalog, we've gone into that before, but one of the things that I really love about this feature for catalog is you can do a quick collection. So your quick collection could be your best images for a project or for a catalog or assignment, something like that. So doing that, you can do it in two ways. One, they're all this little circles at the top. So if you look over on your panel, it added a picture. Now I'm going to add another one. And you can do the same thing down in your film strip reel. And now I have 3 images. If I'm wanting to see my best work that I just did a quick selection of them, those would be my 3 right there. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn those off so that you can see the other features that I can do with sorting my images. Previous import is something that you can use if you just did a batch import and you're just trying to find your most recent images. You can click on that feature as well and you'll see your most recent imports. All photos shows you everything you have, and that's catalog. Now folders are actually where your images live. So this is on your desktop. So these images that you see here are being pulled from my C drive, my year 2018 folder, and it has all the different images. You can see exactly where each one of these things live. So be mindful of that. That folder is important because it's where your images actually live on your desktop or on your external hard drive. Your collections are a place where you can start organizing your images. They're smart collections, and I'm going to show you how to kind of create collections using some of the features below. I'm going to go ahead and close these out since we don't need these panels anymore because we're going to be working primarily within the library filter. Okay, so let's take a look at your metadata. You have one image here, and you can kind of see, I'll go ahead and zoom in on it for you. You can see that the histogram is kind of in the middle, which is where you typically want your histogram, meaning like not too dark or too light in exposure. But you can also see some other things. If you click on metadata, metadata is going to be your place that you have all the information within the photo. It's what's embedded in the photo. So it's the file name, your copyright, and then if you scroll down to the bottom, it's the more in-depth information such as what camera you used, what lens you used, did your flash fire or not, what focal length were you using, and then what are the dimensions of your image, when it was captured and whatnot. So this information is much more comprehensive than the information that you would find under your histogram here. Copyright is really great, and I'll get into that later in the unit. But for this, you can select if you want your copyright to be unknown or public domain. I highly recommend giving yourself ownership of your images because you are ultimately the creator. You can do this in camera as well on most digital cameras, but if you're working with a 35 millimeter and bringing them in digitally, you'll definitely want to give yourself credit for your image. You can put titles and captions within your images as well. And as we explore importing and exporting your images, I will show you how you can actually put a theme name or subject name or event name in your title so that you still have your number of what your image is. However, you can change it so that this, for example, was taken at Bouchard's Garden in Victoria, Canada. So I could put Bouchard's Garden and then it would have the name. So you can do your date, whatever you're looking for to make it a little bit more organized. Now you can do presets as well, depending on if you have a company logo or something like that. So that's your metadata. That's something that's neat about your images, that you can find that information. You can also find that if you right click on your image in a file folder on your desktop using preferences or info, that information will pop up there as well. But within Lightroom, that's the fastest way for you to gather that data and information. Okay, so keyword list or keywording is one of my favorite features that Lightroom offers. And this is going to be really neat in how you organize your images. And this is what I was talking about. Upon import, you can actually add this data into your images so that you can find things easily. But it's also something that as you're going through your images and sorting through your images, you can add these small keyword phrases or tags onto your images so that when you're searching, you can find them a lot faster. So because I went through and added some tags or keywords onto my images, I'm going to go ahead and type in flowers, and you'll see how it sorts. Now, I was able to get 6 out of the 9 images that popped up with flowers, but I also did one for water. But as you can see, I have 4 images here, and it also has one of the flower images in there as well. So this gives you an opportunity to put multiple tags within images. This is great when you're working with like engagement photos or things that are red or things that are blue, or just giving things quick titles that you can then search later so that it will create a collection for you, so you're not having to do the legwork of skimming all your images later on down the road. So if you're doing something with architecture, you can put architecture as a keyword. If you have something that's a landscape, things that are going to help you identify photos quickly without having to do a lot of work later. This will save you if you're looking at portraiture or trying to show images to a professor or things like that. Okay, so that's just one way to use keywords to find your images. So let's go ahead and close that out. I'm going to show you the next thing that Lightroom can do. Okay, so in addition to that, Lightroom obviously is for sorting and to gathering your information. So one other cool feature that we have here is your ability to pick or reject an image, or to rate an image, or to even give your image a color category so that it allows you to select an image. So you can see the colors down here as well. So what I'm going to do, just to kind of give you an idea, is I'm going to go through all of my images here, and whatever has red, I'm going to put it in the red folder. I'm sorry. So as you can see, the image pops up with red, but if I click off of it, you can also see that it's red. So I'm going to find images, my water images, for example. Oops. I'm going to make them blue, so you can kind of see how it changes. So it's putting these in little boxes so that I can also identify by color. That's an option that if you want to use that, that's great. That's up to you. The other neat feature too is, in addition to rejecting or picking a color, is you can rate your images. So you do that by using the stars. So keystrokes 1 through 5 on the keyboard will allow you to identify what is your best photo or what is one that you're not really loving. So that's one way for you to start sorting. Or another way, which is really great, is with the pick and reject feature. So P or X. So I'm going to go in here and pull up my image in loop. And so say I like this image, I can go ahead and say P because I like that one. Not really crazy about this image, so I'm going to go ahead and reject it. I'm going to go through, I'm going to say, I'm okay with this one. This one I'm going to pick. I'm going to pick. I'm going to reject this one. I'm going to pick that one. I'll reject this one and pick this one. So once I go back into, here, I click off, I can actually see where my flags are up at the top of the things that I've decided to pick or reject. So you can do that later as well. So that's one way that you can pick. You can pick or reject, you can rate your images, or you can give it a color category as well. That's all a way to kind of begin sorting your images using Adobe Lightroom. You can also sort by your metadata as well. So what kind of lenses you're using, what kind of camera you're using, the date and when things were created, and then also by labels that you may give your images. So that's lesson 1 for getting to know Lightroom.